chapter clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob on mic.
It's 2023 and the Collegiate Beach season is right around the corner. With me on screen, head coach of the Cal Poly Mustangs, Todd Rogers. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
It's always exciting to see and get the perspective, especially from a coach as successful as you've been and with your background and experience, what you're seeing in today's scene in Collegiate Beach volleyball. So I'm going to start off by asking you, what major changes have you seen in the development and growth of Collegiate Beach volleyball?
It's really created an explosion down at the lower levels as well. The explosion of Collegiate Beach and everyone knows fastest growing sport, all those kinds of things at the NCAA level. But it's really given an opportunity to a lot of girls that are younger. You see clubs popping up all over the place. And now you've even got high school beach starting throughout. I think Arizona was the first ones to have it. I know now in Southern California, it's happening. Even in Central California, they're starting it up. This is the kind of the first year. And it just keeps growing. I was talking to someone in Hawaii that was saying that they're looking at it on Maui. And so I think it's just going to keep on growing, and it's being primarily driven by College Beach. And as we keep continuing to grow and those opportunities grow, I think more and more juniors players will look at the beach as a viable option to go play a sport, enjoy the college experience, and enjoy it even more so, hopefully, by playing a sport like beach volleyball.
Mm-hmm. Now, also this year, one of the major changes that's going to be most obvious is the change in the NCAA Beach Volleyball Championship in May and that format. Can you talk a little bit about that and your thoughts on that change and how you were kind of like the Nostradamus predicting how it would turn out?
I kind of did see the single elimination coming. I mean, you just look at the reality of trying to run a double elimination 8-team. Yeah, that's a doable one in 3 days. It's not hard to run, but a 16-team one, double elim, it wasn't going to happen. And I had said a couple of years ago that I thought it was going to go to a single elimination format. And the other reason too is, what is the most popular NCAA sport? It's NCAA March Madness. And what do you have in March Madness that really drives that? It's the possibility of a 16 seed upsetting a 1 seed, which obviously has barely ever happened. But the 2 seed upsetting 15, 3 seed upsetting 14. And that drives a lot of people to watch, because I'd argue the vast majority of people are rooting for the underdog. And I think that the NCAA said, well, this works really well in March Madness, so let's create May Madness, if you will, and let's see if we can't get, the 15th seed upset number 2. Is that likely to happen, soon? Probably not. Just like in basketball, it didn't really happen until probably the last 10, 20 years that even a 3 seed or a 2 seed would lose, and only recently that a 1 seed. So it kind of, it just made sense to me. It just made sense that they would go down that road, and it would be single elim and, one and done. And I kind of like it because it just creates more interest, I think, in the long run. And I think it's good for the sport.
So there are no buys for the top seeds. Everyone is playing day one then.
At this point in time, but it does. And no one said this yet, but what does that do now to me? You just mentioned it. So we go to 24. We can still run a single elimination tournament, no problem. And you give those top 8 seeds, hey, you've earned the right over the course of the season, a bye. And when are we going to get there? Well, if we keep growing at the rate that college beach volleyball is growing, the NCAA likes to keep it around 20% of the participation, give or take. And we were really low there for a while. I was on the committee. We were at like 11%. So this was the right move to 16. Now we're around 20%. But if we keep growing, we're going to be back down to 14%, 13, 12. And adding another 8 is not difficult to do, and still run it in a very short period of time, like they have right now. And then you get the 8 teams get a bye, which I would have no problem with that either. That would be very fair.
Right. Well, I think, Mike, the current data is there are 176 beach volleyball programs right now for this season. So, I could see it coming up quickly, going to a 20-team format, potentially if it's 20%. Based on the amount of programs. So that'd be exciting to see for sure.
I do think it's Division One that are. I think that's what the number they use. I hope you're right, actually. And it's 176, because then they need to grow a lot faster.
Okay, 64 of the 66 are Division One. So now,
there you go. So we're at 16, which is what, 25% roughly. So we're in a great spot right now, and hopefully that grows up to 100, and then we have to add more teams.
Yeah. So with that change, there's some, what other changes could you see coming down the pipeline the next few years in collegiate beach volleyball?
One of the ones that I actually pushed for probably 4 or 5 years ago was more of a Ryder Cup format, where everyone had their 5 teams. You throw out your 5 teams, I throw out my 5 teams. I know who your teams are, you know who my teams are. And then we literally, I don't know how we do it, whether it's a coin flip or whether it's you're the host, so you get to, I have to put in my team first at the ones, but it's not a ones team, it's just a flight. And then you get to match, and then you put in, and then I can match, and we kind of just go down the board that way. Because one of the things that it's just been, I've had a beef with is there are coaches out there that, in my opinion, whether it's purposefully or they think it's best for their players or whatever it is, they're cheating. And it's some of them I've actually even talked to, and they disagreed with me on their reasoning. They're friends of mine, so it wasn't like a big deal in terms of having that conversation. And it wasn't like, hey, you're cheating kind of a thing. But it's out there, and it's this undercurrent. And I'm kind of showing you a little bit. It's this undercurrent of, Joe's got their threes teams awfully good, and it just becomes this kind of cantankerous thing. Whereas if you have a Ryder Cup format or something along those lines, there's none of that. You want to throw a team, whatever it is, you want to try and have the ability to win, then so be it. What's the end goal? Is it to have a 3-2 win, or a 4-1 or a 5-0 win, or is it, I have to try and finagle this, so my ones teams really should be my twos teams, and my twos my ones. But that way it's 50-50, and I really like my 3, 4s, and 5s teams chances. I can win 2 or 3 of those. That's like oftentimes the mindset that you're going through. And I don't like that mindset. I don't like having it myself. And I just feel like that if that kind of change can happen, then you now have none of that. It's out the window. And I'm sure that brings its own issues in terms of logistics and all these other things, but I think it's worth it to take that out. And then all of us as coaches we're on the same page. We're moving in lockstep instead of kind of the undercurrent of that guy always puts his 2s where they should be his 3s, but he puts them at 2s so that he gets a win over here. Yeah. Guys, I can't stand that aspect of it. And you see the same thing in tennis. I'm sure tennis always has that as well. And man, it'd just be a lot nicer just to throw out your team, and the other team throws out a team, and not to mention that instead of getting some 5-0 beatdowns, you actually might get some people upsetting a top team because their ones team plays their 3s team or their 4s team, and it actually has a shot at winning. I'm not saying they're going to win the duel, but you never know. It's why they play the game. So, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I would love to see that.
I think it would generate for me from a media marketing perspective. That actually generates, because you and I get together, and then we could do it on Zoom or however it is with today's technology. It really wouldn't be that hard to figure it out. And literally you put your team in and I put mine in, and fans could watch like who are they going to match up, and then sit there and critique and be like, oh, Todd's an idiot. Doesn't he know that team Rob is going to kill Todd? It would create some kind of I hope, at least, or my thought process, it would create some kind of interest. Above and beyond just the beach volleyball. And then fans can critique over the next 24 hours. How you deal with injuries, I don't know. I haven't delved into that, but I'd love to see it happen.
Right. Well, let's go to your team now. Now we're into this, something new that happened this year was the NCAA allowed for fall competition. But I wanted to get a sense of what you thought about your team during the fall competitions. I know I saw you guys at, Manhattan Beach in the fall. Saw a couple of your teams playing, and looked like you have some pretty good talent on board there.
We do. We got some pretty good young talent. We got some pretty good older talent. We're actually kind of an odd mix of very old, and maybe a lot of teams are just because of COVID, but very old and very young. And then our kind of like sophomore, junior, fourth year classes are very small, but our
Mhm.
freshman class is big, and our fifth year COVID/grad is rather large as well. So some of them being new, even the older ones as well. So yeah, I'm really pleased. We got, I mean, a really unique and awesome team in terms of the gals on the team, the culture. It's been really amazing to watch over the course of this fall, as well as the winter. So we lost some very, very talented players, like every team does every year, due to graduation, injuries, etc. And so watching some of these gals fill in that gap, if you will, and watching them grow into that has really been an enjoyable experience for me personally on that front. So I'm super stoked on our team and looking forward to see what kind of waves we can make out there, and maybe have an upset or two, and also have some fantastic battles.
Right on. Well, how about this for our listeners and viewers? Who are some key athletes, or potentially, well, a lot of coaches haven't been revealing their pairs, but telling about their athletes, but who should the fans be watching out for this season on the Mustangs?
Got some, a young player or two. Izzy Martinez, Isabel, but everyone calls her Izzy. She's MB San. She's a freshman. She's come in and really made some waves. So she's going to be in that mix somewhere. Really stoked to see her just as a freshman coming in. Wasn't sure. You never know. They're talented, but it's a different world away from parents and stuff. We've got, Jalen Lombard's come in. She's been an anchor in our squad for multiple years now. This would be her fifth year, obviously COVID year.
Right.
Had a newbie come in, not kind of newbie, Brooke Golick, who played soccer. She's a super interesting case. Soccer at SMU for 4 years, but was a really talented beach volleyball player as a junior, and so she's playing for us. Piper Furch is from Seattle. She's only a sophomore, but super talented, crazy arm swing, very strong player. So, I mean, that's a couple of them, some older ones and some younger ones. I mean, there's a couple others that I'm super stoked on, but those are the ones I'll give you for now.
Right on. Well, let's go out to the conference, and it's obviously one of those questions like, should be careful there, but who are some of the top teams in the Big West Conference we should be looking out for? And obviously you guys are, you've won the last 3 Big West beach volleyball championships and have been to the NCAA championships in the last 3 years as well. So, but what other teams could be putting up a big fight at the top?
Well, I think, the odds-on favorite. We don't do the favorite type of stuff, although I would love to be able to do that within our conference. I think it'd be a fun thing to do, but I think Hawaii is the favorite personally. I love my team, don't get me wrong, but I think that they've returned the vast majority of their squad. They've added a few pieces as well. We lost some pretty big pieces that we have to have, like I said, some gals fill in. I know Long Beach lost a couple of big pieces just recently as well. So I had actually had them pretty high up as well. But maybe now they're a little bit lower than Hawaii. So, I mean, I think the 3 of us will be per the norm of the last, whatever it's been, 5-6 years since we kind of got up to Long Beach and Hawaii's standards. Which should be the cream of the crop, although Davis has every year they've gotten better, and they're starting to really push people. Beat Hawaii last year at the Big West Challenge, and that was a pretty big upset, probably one of the bigger ones, if not the biggest ones biggest one in their history. Bakersfield now is getting a little bit more focus on beach volleyball, and that's what I'm really kind of excited about, because now they've got Caesar has been their coach for a while, but he's been splitting time both sides. Now he's only beach, and so you're seeing more and more of that, and I think because of that, the squads will ultimately be stronger as you get more focus on them, because they're not, you split your time. It's hard to recruit. It's hard to make calls on the indoor side and the beach side, and not really fair to the coach, but now he can actually do that. So I'm looking for them. I don't know if that'll happen this year, but in the future, I think that they're going to be moving upwards in that realm.
Yeah. Who are some of the other athletes in the Big West that we should be keeping our eyes on?
I mean, the one that I would say you got to keep your eye on is Brooke at Hawaii. I mean, she's a really enjoyable, fun athlete to watch. She's, whenever you get an undersized player, and I say that fully in quotation marks, because the girl has an absolute cannon of an arm and flies and moves like, a gazelle on the court. It's really, I just enjoy watching her play because she combines an element of grace, skill, and yet even though she's not 6 feet tall, I think she's 5'8", maybe 5'9", something like that. She can absolutely crush balls, and so she has the power as well. So to me, she's one of my favorite players just to watch. Period. In the NCAA. So I'm looking forward to seeing. Not that I don't want to beat her, but I'm looking forward to watching her play because she is a fun player to watch, and she's got grit too. I can appreciate that about someone that talented, yet they still have that grit to them, that they're not uber talented and know it. They just, I'm good, and here, I'm going to grind it out with you too.
Yeah. Just for all you listeners, viewers, Brooke Van Sickle of Hawaii is who Todd is referring to. And she's got a lightning quick jump and she is fiery on the court, but man, you want that on your team because that sets the momentum in going there right there.
Yep, absolutely. So, if you're asking me my fave, that's probably my fave to watch outside of my own team. Obviously, I love my gals, but I'm looking forward to seeing her play.
Yeah. Let's go even further out and look at who are some of the teams to watch out for in the nation now. And I know there's a lot of teams, as we mentioned earlier, but there are definitely some big time programs that will be there, but there's also some that can shake it up a little bit too.
So I think I'm going to put this as standards, FSU, UCLA. I think those are probably two that I would put at the top. Not exactly difficult to do. They took second and third last year. I imagine that USC and LSU will be in that mix a little bit, although USC graduated everyone. So literally, and then some, I think they graduated 13 or something like that. Yep. LSU, I know, lost a lot of players as well. I think TCU is absolutely in that mix with FSU and UCLA. They're Spanish. What do they have? 4 of them or 5 of them? They're good. And Hector's done a fantastic job over there. So I fully expect them to be heavily in the mix. Some of this kind of a sleeper, or you're like, everyone's kind of like waiting to see is Stanford. They've had a couple of really, really strong recruiting classes coming in, and they still have a couple of their older gals that are still there, either on 4th or 5th years. So it'll be interesting to see if they make that next jump from, solid top 10 squad to maybe a really solid top 4, top 5 squad. Right. And then, I'm not as familiar at the East Coast side of things, but FIU always seems to be sneaky good. Sometimes Stetson as well. So I expect Hawaii will be in that mix, as we kind of discussed. That's outside the Big West. And then, Johnny always does a good job at LMU too. I'm sure I might be forgetting. Am I forgetting anyone that?
What's funny is I don't really keep track of them, but I think all the teams you mentioned, all the other coaches have said it as well. So you're right in alignment with them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. To me, the top ones are going to be like, looking at it from now and more of a last year's lens rather than a this year's lens would be UCLA, FSU, TCU would probably be my top 3.
Cool. And then with that, who are some of the top athletes in the nation to be watching out for?
That's a little bit more difficult question. Obviously, I think Brooke's already been in there, that we talked about, Brooke Van Sickle. That's actually a much more difficult one. I'm looking forward to seeing Dina Berg at UCLA and see, she's blocked 1 year, she's played defense 1 year. It's kind of like, all right, that'll be an interesting one to see if she plays defense behind Abby Van Winkle, or does she block for someone else, like a Jaden Whitmarsh or something like that. That'll be enjoyable to watch. At TCU, Moreno and Alvarez, Alvarez is just a powerhouse, and Moreno is actually a really good athlete. Just from an athletic perspective, movement, hand-eye, all those kinds of things. She's not as powerful as Danielle, but she's pretty impressive. And then Maddie Anderson at FSU is big, strong, and a pretty dang good athlete as well. I always enjoy watching her. One of my favorite athletes to watch, I don't know where she'll go on the TCU is Kate Privet, just
Mhm.
because she's a little tiny tyke that is gnarly, and is an amazing athlete, just from a pure
Yeah.
athletic perspective at 5'5", 6'7", whatever she is. I don't think she's any taller than 5'7".
Mhm.
So, I mean, maybe that's just me being a small player in my own day, and I lean towards that rather than the big hulking monsters out there. But he's one of my faves to watch just play, just from an athletic perspective.
There's gonna be a lot of great competition, and one of the things that always catches my eye is the center of effort challenge that you host at your facility. But you got some pretty gnarly teams coming in this year.
Yeah, that's it's every year it's grown, it's gotten better. And this year will be no exception. We got 8 teams coming in, 2 from the PAC and USC and UCLA, 2 from the WCC in LMU and Pepperdine, 2 from the Big West, us and Long Beach, and then 2 from back east and FSU and TCU. So, I mean, you look at it, and from a rankings perspective, last year you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 10, and it was 14 and 16 or 14 and 17. I don't know where they'll play out in terms of this year, but I suspect there'll probably be something similar along that line. I think most of them will be top 20 and the majority in the top 10. So it's the coaches love it because it's a great preview for them of what's going to happen in 3 weeks time at the NCAA. So they can kind of get that last look at, the East West Coast competition kind of thing, see what they need to do to adjust maybe, and then go from there. So, and it's well attended too. It's one that if you're an NCAA beach volleyball fan, you should probably go. We've got a really fun venue to watch these teams play in.
Now, are you going to be streaming those matches? I think they were last year, if I remember correctly, but I don't know if that was a special deal you'd set up for all the viewers.
I don't know if it was streamed last year. Was it? I didn't
I
set it
saw
up.
some footage. I don't know if it's someone's phone on YouTube, but I did watch some of it, and it was closer to sunset. That's how I remember.
Gotcha. I bet maybe that was someone's phone. This year we are trying to get a streaming service to do it. Actually, I'm actively, as we speak, working on that. So hopefully that goes out there. It'll be the opportunity. If you can't make it, you can at least check out some of the best beach volleyball. I mean, it was pretty cool knowing full well, like there were multiple over the last couple of years, there's been multiple Olympians on the sands there playing. And they were in college, but they had already been in the Olympics. So it was pretty cool, actually. A lot of fun.
Right on. Well, Todd Rogers of Cal Poly with the 2023 season right around the corner. Looking forward to seeing your Mustangs on the sand and catching you here in the next few weeks, be it at your facility or down here, because I know you're visiting here quite a bit. So.
Yep. Well, Rob, I really appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to seeing you in the next month or so at many of the venues that we'll be at.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Aspero at the Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.